Horror at Mexico Cenote. Tourist provocation pushes friendly celebrity Crocodile to attack for the first time. A peaceful tourist destination in Mexico's Riviera Maya turned into a scene of panic after a well-known crocodile named Panchito attacked a 75-year-old French tourist at the famous Casa Cenote near Tulum. Now it's time to go beyond the headlines and explore every angle of this story on our AI podcast.
Imagine, for just a second, that you are snorkeling.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right. You are floating in the incredibly clear, just beautifully serene waters of Mexico's Riviera Maya.
Oh, it's gorgeous down there.
It really is. And all around you are these lush green mangroves stretching right down into the water with their roots tangling into the limestone.
Yeah, it's famous for that really unique ecological mix.
Exactly. You have the fresh water from underground rivers meeting the salt water from the ocean. It creates this visual effect where the water actually blurs.
Right, that mixing layer.
Yeah, a mixing layer that makes the whole environment feel, I don't know, almost magical, like otherworldly.
Oh, for sure.
So you are breathing slowly through your tube, looking at the fish darting through the roots, and then right there beside you, just gliding through the water with this total ancient calmness, is a crocodile.
Which, I mean, for a lot of people, that sounds like the ultimate immersive nature documentary experience,
Right.
Just a moment of total peaceful coexistence with a prehistoric predator.
And the crazy thing is, for years, for countless tourists, this wasn't just a fantasy. It was a very real, highly sought after, and wildly viral attraction.
Yeah, people literally came from all over the world to share the water with this specific crocodile.
It was this perfectly packaged illusion of safety until Tuesday at roughly 11 a.m.
Right.
That is when the illusion shattered, the water stopped being magical, and a serene swim turned into just a scene of absolute panic.
It really forces a harsh collision between the fantasy of wildlife tourism and the biological reality of an apex predator.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission for today's deep dive is to explore a truly shocking incident that took place at a highly popular tourist destination.
Yeah, it's a wild story.
We are working from this fascinating piece of reporting today called The Price of Provocation, and we're going to use it to understand this incredibly dangerous intersection where viral social media fame, human entitlement, and unpredictable wildlife all just collide head-on.
It's a perfect storm, really.
It is. The central question we have to grapple with here is, how does a beloved, supposedly friendly, local celebrity animal suddenly become a life-threatening predator?
Well, what's fascinating here is that, biologically speaking, there was no sudden transformation.
Right.
The animal didn't change at all. The core theme we are looking at is a profound, almost willful misunderstanding of wildlife habituation.
Yeah, absolutely.
What happened in that water was a disaster that environmental specialists and, well, wildlife experts had long warned was an inevitable mathematical certainty, given the environment and the human behavior involved.
So let's ground this in the physical reality of what actually went down on Tuesday.
Okay.
The location is Casa Cenote. For those of you who might be planning a trip or, have driven down that coast, this is a very popular attraction located about 15 minutes north of Tulum.
Right on the main coastal highway heading toward Cancun.
Exactly. But we really need to explain what a cenote actually is because the geography plays a huge, huge role in why this became such a disaster.
That is a crucial point. A cenote isn't like an open lake or a wide open beach.
No.
It is essentially a collapsed limestone cave filled with groundwater.
Right.
So by definition, it features narrow waterways, steep rock walls, and very tight channels lined with mangroves.
So you were basically swimming in a rocky hallway.
Precisely. You are in an enclosed corridor. And the star of this particular corridor was an animal named Panchito.
Right, Panchito.
Panchito is a Morales crocodile who had genuinely become a local celebrity in the Riviera Maya.
Yeah, we aren't talking about a secretive animal hiding in the deep reeds here.
No, not at all. He was famous for swimming calmly right alongside scuba divers and snorkelers. People would travel to Casa Cenote specifically to get in the water and take a selfie with Panchito.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the attack. The victim in this case was a 75-year-old French tourist named Jean-Jacques Carampronas.
Right.
According to the reports, he was in the water when the crocodile lunged, biting him on both ankles and his left arm.
Just terrifying.
The details from the scene are horrifying. The article notes that onlookers and tourists could only watch helplessly while this happened.
Because of the tight space.
Exactly. Photos taken right after the attack show this elderly man bleeding heavily from his injuries. Luckily, emergency responders navigated to the site quickly and transported him to Costumed Hospital.
And local media did later confirm he was in stable condition.
Grace. Stable condition. But it's just a terrifying ordeal.
It is. And it brings us to a critical failure in how the local tourism industry operates.
Oh, for sure.
The article points out that dive operators in the area had actively promoted these close encounters with Panchito.
Yeah, they made swimming with a crocodile a core advertised part of the Cenote experience, which in turn helped the animal gain massive viral popularity online. I have to say, I'm struggling to understand the logic here. If these dive operators work in those narrow cenotes every single day, they have to know how dangerous a Moralett's crocodile is.
You would think so, yeah.
So why are they hyping up these encounters? It's as if tourists started treating a wild predator like an animatronic theme park ride just because the local guides gave it a cute nickname.
Exactly.
How does the industry's promotion create such a dangerous blind spot for the everyday tourist?
Well, it fundamentally comes down to a misplaced transfer of authority.
Okay, how so?
Think about it. When you go to a theme park, you trust the roller coaster engineer. You trust that the tracks are bolted down, the safety harness works, and the risk has been engineered out of the experience.
Right, you assume someone signed off on it.
Exactly. So when a tourist arrives at Casa Cenote and a professional uniformed dive operator says, "Oh, don't worry, that's just Panchito, he's friendly,"
Oh, I see.
the tourist applies that same theme park trust to the guide.
You just assume the guide wouldn't put you in danger, so the crocodile must be safe.
Right. You assume a level of vetting and control that simply cannot exist in the natural world.
Oh.
The businesses benefit financially from the novelty of the experience, but they are selling a lethal illusion. Because, going back to the geography we discussed earlier,
The tight corridors.
yes, the physical reality of those narrow cenote waterways means that if the animal does react, the humans sharing that tight space are completely trapped.
Yeah, they have nowhere to swim away to.
And the crocodile has nowhere to retreat either.
The dive operators sold this idea of a harmless mascot, but that illusion breaks down completely the second you look at the witness reports from Tuesday.
Oh, absolutely.
Because this wasn't a random attack, it was triggered. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, the witness reports completely shift the narrative here. This was not an unprovoked tragedy.
No. According to witnesses at the scene, several tourists were actively harassing Panchito mere moments before the attack.
It's hard to even believe.
Visitors were literally seen throwing rocks at the crocodile. They were tossing rocks at an apex predator in an apparent attempt to trigger some kind of reaction so the onlookers could watch and probably film it.
It is a staggering display of ignorance. But it perfectly illustrates the warnings experts have been issuing for years regarding this specific, highly trafficked animal.
Oh, wait. I want to challenge the logic of this for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
If Panchito is so completely used to humans splashing around him every day, doesn't that mean he's habituated?
Yes, he is habituated.
So logically, shouldn't he be less likely to attack? Like, if I throw a rock near a pigeon in a city, it doesn't attack me. It just ignores me or walks away because it's used to people.
That is a very common, very dangerous misconception.
Really?
Yeah, we need to look at the biological mechanism here, specifically the massive difference between habituation and domestication.
Okay, break that down for me.
Domestication is a process that takes thousands of years. It literally rewires an animal's DNA and alters their endocrine system to change their baseline fight-or-flight hormones.
Right.
A dog is domesticated. Panchito is merely habituated.
So habituation doesn't change his biology at all?
Not at all. Habituation is just temporary behavioral conditioning. Over years of being surrounded by tourists, Panchito learned that humans didn't pose an immediate lethal threat.
Okay.
His natural fear response was reduced. But habituation is essentially like taking the batteries out of a smoke alarm.
Oh, wow. Okay, I like that analogy. Explain that a bit more.
The fire, meaning the animal's ancient predatory instinct, is still perfectly capable of burning the house down. You haven't removed the fire.
You've just disabled the alarm.
You've simply disabled the early warning system that tells the animal to flee. A wild, non-habituated crocodile that fears humans will almost always choose flight over fight. It will swim away to avoid you.
Makes sense.
But because Panchito was habituated, his flight response was gone. He wasn't afraid. So when those tourists started throwing rocks, they triggered a biological stress response.
Oh, man.
And without the urge to flee, the only instinct left on his biological menu was to fight.
He didn't have the safety valve of fear anymore, so if he feels threatened, trapped in a narrow limestone waterway, and provoked by falling rocks, he isn't going to retreat, he is going to defend himself.
Yes, and he's going to do it with millions of years of evolutionary efficiency. You have to remember how a crocodile processes the world.
Right, the vibrations.
Exactly. They're highly attuned to vibrations in the water. A rock hitting the surface near them isn't just an annoyance. It is a sharp, aggressive sensory input.
Yeah.
The tourists removed his fear of humans, but they couldn't remove his teeth or his strength. They treated him like a prop, and he responded like a predator.
Which brings us to the psychology of the people standing on the edge of that cenote. Why do modern tourists feel so incredibly emboldened to harass a deadly animal?
It's a great question.
The source material notes that conservationists had long feared Panchito's popularity had blurred the line between wildlife and entertainment. I think we really have to look directly at the social media echo chamber here.
Oh, absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the desire for viral content isn't just a byproduct of this tourism. It is the active engine driving the risk.
Yeah. Think about the feeds we all scroll through. When you open Instagram or TikTok, you are constantly bombarded with these perfectly curated wildlife selfies.
All the time.
Someone swimming with a pig in the Bahamas, someone feeding a wild monkey in Bali, or someone taking a wide-angle video swimming next to Panchito the crocodile in Tulum.
Right. And the algorithm rewards proximity to danger without showing the consequences.
Exactly. And when you see 100 videos of peaceful interactions, it forces a societal blind spot.
It creates a dangerous normalization of risk. Let's look at it from the perspective of the tourists who threw the rocks.
Okay.
They arrive at Casa Cenote, and their baseline assumption, built by the dive operators and reinforced by social media, is that this animal is essentially a statue. It is, quote-unquote, safe.
Right.
But a crocodile sitting perfectly still in the mangroves isn't great content for a fast-paced feed. It doesn't capture attention. They want movement.
Yeah, a still photo doesn't get the likes. They want the crocodile to snap its jaws or splash its tail.
Exactly. The demand for digital validation completely overrides their basic sense of self-preservation. They throw a rock because they view the animal not as a living, breathing predator, but as an interactive screen that isn't responding fast enough.
Wow, that is such a powerful way to frame it.
And the attack on Tuesday violently confirms what the experts in the article have been warning about. Treating wild animals like social media attractions completely ignores the sheer, terrifying unpredictability of nature.
It's like we've collectively decided that if an animal is famous on the internet, it must have read the terms of service and agreed not to bite anyone.
Yeah, a verbal contract with a crocodile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that detachment from reality has devastating real-world consequences, not just for the 75-year-old French tourist who ended up in the hospital, but for the entire local ecosystem and the animal itself.
Definitely.
So what does this all mean for the aftermath?
Well, the fallout is playing out in a very predictable, bureaucratic way. Following the incident, local authorities in Tulum have suddenly mobilized to discuss stricter regulations at Casa Cenote and other wildlife-heavy sites.
So our article outlines a few of these proposed measures. They are talking about installing additional warning signs around crocodile zones, actively restricting tourist activities near wildlife habitats.
Which is long overdue.
Right. And increasing the oversight of the tour operators we talked about earlier, plus enforcing much stricter rules on how people interact with crocodiles.
This raises an important question, though, about the deeply reactionary nature of wildlife management.
How so?
These measures, like the warning signs and restricted zones, they're fundamentally sound ideas.
Yeah.
But implementing them only after a major traumatic event highlights how economic interests usually outpace safety protocols until it's too late.
And it forces us to look at who actually pays the ultimate price for this human negligence.
Yeah.
The human tourist, thankfully, survives and is recovering. The authorities swoop in and put up warning signs after the blood is already in the water. But what about Panchito?
That's the tragic part.
The article explicitly states that his fate remains completely unclear. Officials haven't announced if the crocodile will be relocated, removed from the area entirely, or euthanized.
Which is the ultimate tragic irony of habituation. We're talking about an animal that was simply existing in its natural habitat, doing exactly what its biology dictates.
Right. The dive operators brought the humans to the crocodile's home to make money. The constant stream of humans habituated the crocodile, stripping away its natural fear.
Right.
The humans then violently provoked the crocodile by throwing rocks at it in a narrow channel. And now the crocodile might be put to death. It feels like an incredibly broken system.
It exposes the sheer arrogance of how we structure wildlife tourism. We demand that wild animals behave according to our expectations of a petting zoo. We want the thrill of proximity without the reality of the danger. And when the animal inevitably fails to adhere to our artificial script, we punish it for its biology.
It's so unfair.
The article's final point really stresses this reality. No wild predator can ever be considered fully safe around humans.
You create a celebrity, you corner it, you provoke it until it breaks character, and then you discuss destroying it for breaking character. It is a devastating cycle. And then finally, you put up a sign.
A sign that should have been there a decade ago.
But this entire incident gives us some incredibly clear, vital takeaways. The story of Casa Cenote, of Panchito and the French tourist, is a stark reminder that the concept of a friendly wild predator is a total human invention.
A complete myth.
It is a fantasy that absolutely does not apply to wildlife. Habituation isn't friendship, it's just the removal of the animal's natural instinct to run away from you.
It requires a fundamental shift in how we view ourselves within these ecosystems, We are visitors in their environment, not the directors on a movie set.
Which means it forces us to look at our own feeds and our own travel choices a little differently. When we book that exotic tour just to get uncomfortably close to an apex predator, or when we double tap that viral video of someone swimming with a wild animal,
We are part of the problem.
we have to recognize that we are implicitly funding the exact industry that put Panchito and that tourist in the hospital. It's not just about judging the people throwing rocks. It's about questioning the entire machine that puts us close enough to throw them in the first place.
That is the real price of provocation.
We want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over today. Right now, the local authorities in Tulum are actively debating how to manage this crocodile. And the reality is that euthanasia is a very real option on the table.
Yeah, it's really sad.
At the exact same time, they are discussing putting stricter rules in place to manage the tourists. It forces us to ask an uncomfortable structural question. If an animal is put to death simply for reacting to humans who violently provoked it in its own habitat, are our wildlife management policies really about keeping people safe from dangerous animals? Or are they just a convenient way to avoid managing our own dangerous behavior?
A provocative question, and one we really need to answer before the next viral attraction takes center stage.
Next time you are snorkeling in those beautiful mangrove-lined waters and you see something wild gliding beside you, remember that the illusion of safety is exactly that, an illusion. Keep your distance, leave the rocks on the shoreline, and respect the wild for what it truly is.
Okay, one question for you. Should tourists who intentionally provoke the crocodile by throwing rocks face legal consequences for putting both human lives and wildlife in danger? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.